It didn't wait. Funny part is it started earlier today when I was doing a test. Okay, it looks like we are coming up everywhere, so go for it.
Are we up? Are we live?
Yes,
Hey,
go ahead.
everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the BA Zone's live pre-show. Kathleen is behind the curtain tonight, so we'll have her jumping in here and there. If I sound a little different, I have to speak up because it's been one of those days. Have you ever had one of those days? I had one of those days yesterday, and I happened to be down the shore with all my equipment, and there was a lot of kids there, a lot of grandchildren. And if you have kids, or if you have grandkids or nieces or nephews, they plug in all their gadgets, usually where I plug in all my gadgets. So when I was leaving to come back up here to go to work today, I had my cell phone, my Lifeline, plugged in where I don't normally see it. And I also had my other computer, which I normally do the show with, plugged in right next to it. So yes, I walked out the door without my cell phone, without my laptop. And I got down the road and realized I didn't have it, and tried to go back and realized I didn't have a key to get back in either. So I'm on a really much older computer. So I don't have my nice mic or my camera. So we're just winging it through the old equipment tonight. And, sometimes you just have those days where everything's hectic. You got little kids running around and all their stuff's plugged in, and that's what happens. So, yeah, got that going for us. I don't know if it's a situation of just having the kids around or being too busy, or if it's just starting to happen to me, because I don't know if I told you guys this story, but I like to have a cup of tea, during the show. And I also have some water. And the last time, I think it was the last time the show or the show before, I was telling Kathleen when we got off the show, the next door neighbors had a fire pit outside, so I was like, wow, that fire pit smells really strong, and I got to the top of the stairs and I realized, uh-oh, I had put the kettle on before I came on to the show and didn't even make the tea because I was in a hurry. And I came upstairs, and actually my kettle was just sort of dissolving in on itself. If we had gone a little bit longer, I might have set the kitchen on fire. So I'm not sure what's going on here, but I hope your week is going better. Now, of course, I do not have a kettle anymore because I sort of, when I dumped it out, like black stuff just came out of it. So now I recommend this highly, an electric kettle. It just shuts itself off when it's done, and you don't have to worry about burning down the house. That was a great song, Burning Down the House. Anyway, we're going to get going here in about 2 minutes. I have an odd setup, so you'll see me looking over there and over here because I'm on stuff that people probably don't even use anymore. But other than that, it's been a great week. It's been really warm. So as I said, we're going to be talking about tonight, stakeholders, getting stakeholders engagement and getting them to come to meetings. And it's always a challenge, but there's a few tricks that you can do, a couple of things that help out. And we're going to go over that tonight in a few minutes. And, if you have any comments or you want to drop us a line, please do so, and we'll get you on air. We have to send a shout out to Adam. And I can't pronounce, I'm afraid to pronounce his last name incorrectly. Hessler? Is it Hessler? And Kathleen will probably have it, but he's been great with us, and we love to hear from him. He's out there too, so check him out. Definitely see what he's up to. And anybody in the community out there, feel free to jump in and give us some feedback. We love to hear from everybody. You can get us. We're all over the internet, YouTube, Facebook, Periscope. We're on Twitter. We're on everywhere you can think of. And Kathleen has a list. So you don't want a random H2 or a random H4. We'll take anybody, anything. So I'm not exactly sure what a random H2 or H4 is, but I'm sure we'll find out in a few minutes. Any random thoughts, Kathleen?
Sorry, that was from the show I had to do by myself last minute.
Okay.
I don't know why that
so
came
what
up.
is
I'm trying to get
the
comments to come up, and they're not cooperating. So I may have to just wing it. So John said, "Woo! At least today is almost over." I'm guessing he's talking about your almost burning down the house.
Almost burning down the house. I've had some interesting things going on. Actually, one of the guys that I worked with said the same thing. The night's almost over. He was telling me, breathe through your eyelids. It's almost 5 o'clock. So, those kind of things happen. What are you going to do? But they seem to happen in clusters, but hopefully it's nothing too bad going on out there in your world. And, oh, look, it's 8:01 already. Well, that time flew. We're having fun. So, okay, Kathleen, are you ready? Are we all set? Hello? Bueller, hello?
I was having a coughing fit, so I spared the world that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are
you all set?
Let's just do one quick test here. Let's see if this works.
Right.
Whoops.
If you're just joining us, I'm working on older equipment, so I'm going to be talking. Hello, Adam Hessler. It's phonetic spelling. How are you? Great to see you. If you just joined us, this is the BA Zone Live. I'm working on really old equipment. I don't have my mic. I don't have my camera, so we're going really old school here, and we'll see how this goes because I left everything somewhere else, and it happens. Sometimes it happens. But again, welcome, everybody. We're glad you're all here. Tonight, we're going to be talking about stakeholders and getting them engaged and keeping them engaged and getting them to come to meetings and actually giving some input. So, Kathleen, how are you? Good with that test? Am I loud enough on this old equipment?
Yeah, I mean, you could be a scotch louder, but if it's going to strain your voice, just lean in a little bit, maybe.
Well, no, it doesn't strain my voice as long as I'm not yelling. We're great.
Yeah, that's good. Don't yell because that red lines you.
Okay.
Your voice is better now. That's good.
Don't want a flat line. I'll just try to speak to the back of the room as if I'm in a theater group. Okay. So let's talk about getting stakeholder involvement. By the way, I'm Marianne Morrison, and my counterpart over there is Kathleen Sinnott, and we are the BA Zone. We're here for you. If you have any ideas for the show, if you have any problems or issues, please feel free to drop us a line. You can go to BAZone.com. We are on all the usual places. I don't know if Kathleen has that slide, if it's cooperating tonight or not. But you can find us on Periscope, Facebook.
Oops. Hang on. We lost her.
On our website, BAZone.com. Okay. So let's talk about, when it comes to attendees of a meeting or stakeholders, a meeting is sort of like a wedding reception. You get those sort of people that say they're coming and then they bail. Some of them come and stay for the cocktail hour, and so that would be like the first meeting or two, and then that's it. You don't see them again. And then you have those folks that come to the wedding reception that sort of are there for a few minutes and keep disappearing, and we really don't know what they're doing out in the parking lot, but they keep coming back in, and it's sort of a sporadic attendance type of thing. Then you get those kind of folks that come to the whole event and don't remember anything because they're multitasking or they're bored with the event. And then there's those that only show up for the cake. They show up for the cake, but they have a comment about the entire wedding anyway. They have all kinds of opinions about it, even though they weren't there for most of it. You also have the wedding crashers. These are the uninvited guests that show up at your meetings, or they sort of invite themselves because they feel the need to be there. And then there's those that participate. They have a blast. They contribute to the meeting and the success of the project. And you have a swell wedding. So a meeting in general is a means to a purpose, right? So what is the purpose? You need to define that very clearly for yourself. And the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you need a meeting at all. Do you actually need a meeting, or could you do this with a phone call? Could you stop by? Could you do a little chat online? Because there's nothing worse than being invited to a meeting that really could have been handled in a different way. People just don't have the time today. And you have to, when you're thinking about meetings and engaging stakeholders, what you have to think about is, what are some of the reasons you attend or skip meetings? Think back about why you do that. It's kind of hard to correct a behavior that becomes second nature, right? So it's sort of like a bad golf swing. Like if you play sports or you play golf. I don't, but I love to drive the little cart and drink martinis as I drive people around. But if you want to get better at something like a golf swing, sometimes you have to unlearn all the bad habits before you can correct your stance and your swing. So, and that's true of meetings. We all have this really negative feeling today towards meetings because we've been to so many that are really not great. Some of them are actually really bad, or it's a matter of just the sheer volume of meetings that we're invited to the point where we can't even get our work done because we're just sitting in meetings all of the time. So as a facilitator of a meeting or a workshop or any other type of requirements gathering that you're doing, you sort of have to be you have to adjust everybody's opinion. You have to retrain them that meetings aren't a bad thing. They're kind of great, right? So how do you do this? So the first thing that I do is I like to assess the people that I'm going to be engaging with, right? I don't mean judge them. I mean assess them. And I don't try to, what I try to do is I use a pay it forward approach, right? You know that adage of pay it forward. So I reach out to people individually before I even have any type of group meeting or group gathering. I start reaching out to people, and this especially works for folks that are sort of shy or they're introverts, but it also gives people a little private time to get to know you, you get to know them. So it's about relationship building. If you want people to attend and keep coming, the first step is building that relationship towards doing that, right? So while you're doing this, you're sort of, everybody's an individual, right? And you're sort of trying to understand what motivates them. What is it that they need, right? Like what motivates me? I like to solve problems. So you have to talk to people and find out what motivates them, and then start asking them, what kind of issues are they having? This is sort of all common sense kind of stuff. You're talking, it's just a conversation, right? So you're trying to figure out what are their issues? What can I do for them? Because people need to feel like it is about them, right? So what is it that I could do for you? And then try to do it. Try to give them something. Try to, even if it's like recently, someone had came to me in an operations side, and I'm working on the IT side, and they were dealing with a lot of clients. They didn't even have a meeting template. So I provided a meeting template. Well, you would have thought I gave them gold, right? Because this is a need that they had. And it's the same thing when we're starting to get into these meetings and we're starting to facilitate requirements or negotiate sign off. You have to give people what they need. And it may just be that they need a voice. They need to be heard. You need to focus and talk to them and understand and get some feedback. So, everyone wants to feel that they have this sense of team, and that's what you're trying to create, this sort of team. And I don't mean with a lot of team building skills and that. They're fine, they're great, but it's more of a one-on-one relationship that you start and get going. This will help you tremendously to get people to show up at your meetings in the first place, for that initial meeting. Everyone needs to feel a sense of belonging. They need to have a sense of something that's bigger than themselves. We're all working towards a greater good. So you have to let them know that they matter, okay? And starting these small conversations, that's the best way to do it. Also, you want to start setting expectations. And I don't mean this in a negative way, but you need to say to folks, if they don't come, there are consequences to not showing up at those meetings. The best way is to not put it in a sort of slap your hand type of thing. It's more of, look, this is business. If you don't attend this meeting, your opinion won't get heard. If there's something in a requirements document, for example, that we're going to miss because your attendance, you're not there, well, that's going to have to move that particular enhancement to a future release. So it's sort of a cause and effect thing. It's like, hey, I get it. You may not want to attend, but if you don't attend, this is probably what's going to happen, because it's going to affect downstream all the other projects that are stacking up. So you want to start to set those expectations of, this is what could potentially happen, if you don't come in, you're needed. So there's some other little things too, and we've all heard this before, scheduling for a meeting. You want to invite the right people at the right time. And this is for those wedding crashers that kind of show up. I had someone say to me the other day, could you invite me to this meeting? And it wasn't the right time to invite them to the meeting. So this happened to be, QA. There is a time to invite the QA department in as well. It's not in those first initial meetings, in my opinion. At a kickoff meeting, yes, everybody should attend. But once you start getting into the meetings where you're getting requirements, their time is better used actually testing things that are going out now. If they're new to the company and they need to learn about the company, then yeah, sure, there's some exceptions that you put them in there. But you have to invite people at the right time. Otherwise, you're wasting their time. When we're talking about, gathering requirements, for example, I'm talking to users. I have a specific agenda. A QA person definitely needs to know this information, but they need to know it a little bit later when we gather more of the requirements. And then I will definitely pull them in, and developers as well. So there's that timing issue. Don't invite people before it's necessary for them to come. And it's not because you're trying to keep them away. It's honestly that you're trying to keep the business moving forward. And it can't if key people are pulled into meetings at the wrong time. You have to have time to work. I mean, that's a given. So once you remove that emotion and you take that off, you take it off the table, you remind everybody to have a seat at the table, but you sort of take that emotional thing out, that you're not being invited because you're not wanted. It's just that your time is better suited for this particular task at this time. So also when you're doing scheduling, give people enough lead time. The higher the level of chain of command or executives, you're going to give a longer lead time. And you can also take into consideration people attending the meeting, that if someone can't attend the entire meeting, let them know that you're flexible, that you can put their issues and put them in the beginning of the meeting so that they don't have to attend the entire meeting. So this will get people coming back. You're being considerate of their time and how valuable it is and how much they have to do. So it shows that sort of level of empathy that you need when you're doing these meetings. So, schedule them at the beginning and say, okay, I'll follow up with the minutes and give you the rest of the information, but thank you for your time. So that's always a great way to keep people coming back. Another thing that you can do is, if you're inviting key stakeholders, let them come to the first meeting and then let them decide whether they are needed for future meetings. And we'll get to the agenda later. This is really helpful with an agenda so people can decide if they have anything to contribute to that meeting. And if they don't, it's fine that they don't attend. It's great. You always give follow-up minutes, and everybody stays in communication that way. So that's not a problem either. And you're sort of making them responsible for whether they attend or not. this will sort of help you with, the collaboration and the communication, because again, you're being empathetic to their needs and working around their schedule as much as possible. And, you really want to set those expectations up ahead of time and let them decide, because nobody wants to be, picked last for anything. It sort of puts up their, gets their back up, and you just want to be really considerate of that. Try to keep, when you're scheduling meetings, try to keep them between 30 or 60 minutes. I know there's a lot of people that do stand-up meetings, or scrum meetings. It depends on what you're talking about. 15 minutes is very difficult to get an in-depth conversation on anything. If it's an update meeting, fine. If you're actually getting requirements, it's really not enough time. So shoot for 30 to 60 minutes. Try not to schedule any meetings on Friday. You've heard this before, unless you want to sign off on a requirements document. Then it's actually helpful to do it on a Friday, sort of in the afternoon. Everybody's in a good mood. Everybody wants to get out of there, and you'll get signed off pretty quickly. But other than that, schedule your meetings, Thursdays and before that, earlier in the, not too early in the week, but most of the time, Tuesday through Thursday is a great time to schedule meetings, and not too late in the day. And don't forget to begin and end on time. It's a huge, thing to be able to know that I'm going into this meeting and I'm going to get out of this meeting, and it's all going to start on time and end on time. So again, it's being considerate of your coworkers. So once you get that schedule down pat, you want to plan out your meetings. You want to make sure you have as much information as possible. You are in control of that meeting. You don't want to just walk in and say, hey, today we're going to talk about this. No, you have to really lead those conversations. So you have to have backup documentation. You have to be prepared. Visuals are always great to keep the conversation moving. You have to decide before you do all this, what is the outcome that you're looking for? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And then plan all your tasks and all your time around getting that outcome, making it a successful outcome and reaching your goal. So you really want to think it through thoroughly. And that's all about planning, all about preparation. And if you're just joining us now, the BA Zone Live, just do a little quick thing. Again, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free to contact us. Kathleen, I don't know if they're working. We'll try to get them up, but if not, we'll respond to you through thebazone.com. And we'd love to hear from you. If you're finding this information helpful, please tag a friend, let them know. If you're trying to get that person off the couch who's been slacking, have them join. And before you know it, they'll be off the couch and they'll have a job as a BA. Okay, so that was just a quick side because Kathleen likes me to do that or I get in trouble. I get very, involved and then I forget to do all of that stuff. So she'll smack me if I don't. Okay, so once you get all your planning done, make sure you have an agenda. You'll see this all over the internet as well, too. You create an agenda. It helps you focus. It maximizes your time. Make sure you're setting enough time for each discussion point that you want to talk about. And make sure you have enough time that people can have a conversation and talk about it. The agenda also helps you to set expectations. Everybody knows what's going to happen. They can be prepared for it. They can bring information to it. And you don't necessarily have to review the agenda before the meeting. I know a lot of people do. Typically, I only do that if it's going to be like a meeting that might be over an extended period of time, more than an hour. It could be a day or two. Then you want to review the agenda each day so people know when they're going to eat lunch and maybe when they're going to go to the bathroom. So that's always helpful to do that. You can prioritize your agenda, and you're going to change up the format periodically, just to keep it interesting. But you may just want to, if it's a slow room, if it's a quiet room, and you're trying to engage people, you may want to start off with a couple of very simple tasks or simple decisions that need to be made. And this will get some feedback going and get people talking. Then you can move on to the more important tasks of the meeting. And you can switch that up once in a while, dive right into, once you get comfortable and everybody knows that something's actually going to come out of these meetings, then you could potentially go for the more important one first and leave the smaller issues towards the bottom if you have time. So don't be afraid to change up the format to keep it fresh. When you're talking about content for these meetings, you want to break it down so that everybody can understand it, right? I said visuals, I talked about that. But you want to, if you have to talk a common language, often we're the bridge between IT and operations. There may be, if this is the first time the group's getting together, there may be key terminology that you should stop and take the time to explain so that everybody's on the same page and everybody understands what you're talking about, right? So you're all speaking the same common language. There's nothing worse than hearing somebody drone on and on about IT things, and the ops people have no idea what that person is talking about. So in that case, you want to be the interpreter between the two groups and sort of say, for those people who don't know, this may mean this. And it keeps things moving forward, makes everybody feel like they're sort of more part of a cohesive team. The one thing, and Kathleen and I always have a conversation about this, I really ask people to put away laptops and cell phones so that they're not multitasking. I know Kathleen would disagree because she likes to take notes on her laptop. But I know Kathleen, and I know she will take notes on her laptop. I was in a meeting recently where people were answering emails. They were doing all kinds of things, and they were not focused. They were not engaged at all. So the first thing I always do is ask, could you please, put down your laptops, shut off your cell phones so we can focus on this. And it brings people, to this point in time, right? I mean, this is it. We're talking, let's all focus on the same thing. And it'll move things along much quicker. So that's what I do. And then once you do that, you sort of have to put on a show. I don't mean you have to be an actor or anything, but it does help if you have a sense of humor, if you're sort of motivated. Yeah, I don't know, if talk with your hands. I mean, there's a reason that soap operas, those daytime soap operas, see, Kathleen, I can multitask. Plus, I'm not rude about it. Yes. Okay. She's just gonna type things from the back end. She's not really gonna talk. She's got a ragweed coughing fit, so she's just gonna punch in when she needs to. But anyway, so there's a reason that daytime soap operas have been around for years, right? They're short. Most of the time, the shows are short. They're easy to follow, right? You can pick them up months later and figure out what's going on. They're not boring. They're very organized. They have a beginning, they have a middle, they have an end, and usually the end is a cliffhanger to get you coming back for more. And they're all designed to keep us coming back for more. So, we become invested in those characters to the point where we want to come back. We get invested in the plot line. This is what you're trying to do with your meetings. You're trying to get them engaged. So you have to be a little up. You don't have to be false about it, because people can smell that a mile away. But you do want to be prepared to say, hey, so-and-so, what do you think? And put that in. If you can't remember to do that, just put a little bullet mark somewhere on your own little agenda that you keep with your notes to remind yourself, ask questions, get people engaged, play the devil's advocate when you have to, in order to say, well, what happens, if you do this, and this could be something really bad, it will get people talking. So, and don't forget also, don't forget that you might have remote folks on the phone. So that is the hardest thing to engage. If you're not visually seeing one another, if it's just on the phone, make sure you pull in those remote folks by name and say, what do you think out there, and keep those folks engaged as well. So, a good soap opera, that's what we're looking for here. Not as much drama as you would normally see, in those, but the plot line keeps zipping right along. That's for sure. So the other thing that you can do to keep, Adam, as far as agendas, I prefer more of a top level. Here's what we want to accomplish. Although I have been in many meetings which have, and I can't see the rest of that, Kathleen.
Yeah, you won't be able to see the rest of it, so I'll read the rest of it. So, although I've been in many meetings which have an agenda like a set of minutes, as everything is down to the minute. What are your feelings on these two formats?
You know, it depends on the audience. I've used both formats. So I think you really have to gear who you're talking to. If you have a bunch of creative people in the room, it's going to be very difficult to hone them in to a really tight agenda. So, you know, that's more or less, let's get a bunch of designers in the room with developers and let's talk about this and see where it kind of goes. And that's fine. But there are sometimes you need to actually hit deadlines very precisely. So you really need to map out what you need to get done, because sometimes people will just ramble on. They'll just keep rambling and rattling on, and it's hard to pull them in. But again, if we're talking a more creative, what can we do to bring up sales? What can we, create for like mobile devices or something like that? Then I'm all for the open agenda sort of. This is sort of the high level goal we're trying to do, and let's see how far we get today. So again, it depends on the audience, what you're trying to accomplish. And again, like I said, you can mix the format up, and you should mix it up periodically. You shouldn't, if you become so rote, it's very boring. So yes, absolutely, mix up the agenda. Like I have no problem. Mix the format up, and you should mix it up periodically. You should feedback. So I hope that answers or gives you my opinion, Adam. Absolutely, mix it up, whatever works for you. Again, be flexible. Flexibility is the key here. Give them what they want, what they need, as long as you get what you want and you need as well. Okay, so another way to keep people engaged is to assign them tasks. People do like to participate. They do like to contribute. There's more that like to contribute more than others. So if there's a particular task, and we can't do it all as business analysts, I mean, we have to send folks out there. And I've given this example, I think, before too. If you're working on automating forms and letters, and there is a catalog of forms and letters that an operations department needs to get to you, let them do that. Let them catalog it. Let them figure out if they want it or they don't want it, and give it to you, and then everybody review it together. Giving people tasks helps make them feel like they're part of the team. You don't have to give it to them. You can say, can anybody do this? Would anybody like to offer to do that? People do like to please, a lot of people. And they'll do that. And it's a great way, to get people involved, and give it a time limit. Make sure you say, okay, we need this in a week. So it's a task someone has to accomplish and someone has to deliver. And you want to thank them for that. You want to communicate all throughout this process, right? So you want to highlight the key decisions made. Again, send a follow-up, minutes or key decisions, whatever type of template you like to work with. I say this for a couple of reasons. I always put down in the meeting template the people who were invited and the people who actually attended. Because if key decisions are made and it's made by this particular person, you are giving them credit where credit is due. You are also going to send those minutes to management. Management is going to see who made those key decisions or brought up those key ideas and who was invited and who did not attend. Because if something is missed because someone didn't attend, then it's that person's responsibility to tell their boss why they weren't there. And I mean, you could go, if you have a project manager, by all means, this helps with the people who are sort of showing up and disappearing at the wedding. They're just popping in, popping out. They're really not contributing much. And so it does two things, right? It says, okay, kudos to the folks who were there and who got this done. And, oh, by the way, this piece was missed. Well, that's because this person didn't attend. So it's a way to keep those folks honest while giving the other people credit. So, you know, so it's like a good soap opera, right? But we just want to change the script. We want to change the script on meetings and getting people engaged and keeping them engaged. And there's plenty of different techniques that are out there, but the basic getting to know people, developing that relationship, knowing that when you say you're going to do something, you actually deliver on it. These are the type of things that will build your reputation, and people will actually show up to your meeting. And given the choice, they will show up to your meeting over someone else's meeting because they know that you're going to be the person that's going to drive the process forward. So, you know, meetings, again, are a means to a purpose, right? You just have to keep everyone engaged. And when they're all engaged, everybody is moving forward towards that same purpose. So I don't know, Kathleen, that's all I have. And I just blew through that in 30 minutes. That's not too bad. So I don't know, Kathleen, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I think that was an excellent summary. The only thing that I might add is that I have recently worked in a couple of places where they thought that meetings were not allowed to be fun. And they can't all be fun, but it doesn't hurt to bring a little bit of levity into them. You know, it kind of reduces the stress in the room. So, yeah, I mean, you can't turn them into a party. You know, it's not going to be party hats and cake every time. But by the same token, you know, keeping it conversational, trying to, you know, keep a conversation going, but in a nice way where everybody feels like they can have their input, and trying to control the people who maybe want to override everybody else just makes the whole meeting experience better, which I think also makes it more likely that people are going to choose your meeting over another when there's a conflict. But your mileage may vary.
Your mileage may vary. Exactly. That's a great line. It's very true. So again, you know, be flexible. As Adam said, you know, there's different means to get what you need. Just try different things, whatever works. But, you know, definitely do a couple of things. Make sure you plan ahead and make sure you communicate the outcomes, and you'll be good to go. Definitely. All right. Well, I think that's it. Anything else for this evening?
No, I'll bring up the little piece here, you know, where we remind everybody all the places. Whoops, no, not that one. This one. Go away. Okay. These are all the places you can find us. So don't ever feel shy about reaching out. You know, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Periscope, Facebook, YouTube. You know, if you want us over on Twitch, let us know. I'm not seeing a lot of business stuff there, but if that's where you want to be, we can be there too. So, you know, whatever you've got, whether you've got a question, a comment, if you have an idea for a show, please, you know, reach out, let us know. We're here to help you. That's the whole point of this. So let us know. That's where our best ideas come from, to be perfectly frank.
and don't call me Frank.
All right, I promise. I keep forgetting. You don't like that nickname.
And if I look thinner on,
I told everybody I do not beat you. I never smack you. I encourage. I encourage a format. We encourage.
I slid their tires. No, I'm only kidding. And
no, she just.
And if I look thinner, I know. And if I look thinner on this really old computer, I am. That's absolutely right. I am absolutely thinner on this old computer. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you could hear me well enough. And next week I'll have my good old, my new computer back in place. So hopefully it
be so happy to see it.
So happy to see it. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Take care.
Bye.